What's up, family? Welcome back to the channel for another episode. Today, we're doing another installment of Black Nonbelievers Next Door. I think this is our fifth installment. This has actually been a really informative series where we're actually breaking down. I said actually a lot, where we're breaking down or just really going through the Black Non-Religious Americans brief from the U.S. done from the U.S. Secular Survey, done in partnership with the organization Black Nonbelievers. I'm doing this series for really two reasons. Number one, to highlight the plight and give insight into the plight, conditions, situations, circumstances, and differences of people that we identify or people that identify as Black nonbelievers, but also to bring insight and awareness to an organization that is helping to challenge, change, and provide comfort to those who are Black nonbelievers while challenging and changing the narrative. So I hope you're going to enjoy this. Well, I already know you are because this is a really good conversation. It's a necessary conversation, and I think it's one that we can all benefit from. Because when you think about Black nonbelievers, what I want us to start thinking about is just the idea of diverse ways of being. Period. One of the most phenomenal experiences I've had recently is on one of our Sunday sessions. We had Mark and Ann Peralta on from Apostate of Mind, and of course they have a Hispanic background, Hispanic heritage, and it was so beautiful hearing them share kind of what their how people perceive them, and how we have this similar experience of this presumption of religiosity. And so it's just beautiful to learn about other people's experiences. I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday evening. We hadn't talked in a while, and he had just written a book, and he was surprised that he was getting positive feedback from it because he was like, I just didn't expect that. And I said, I think we often forget how valuable other people's experiences are. And how much value we take in other people's experiences. This is why we enjoy reading. This is why we enjoy watching television and watching movies. This is why we can get caught in scroll doom on social media, because we as individuals find incredible value in other people's experience. And my reminder is it's because we are all somewhat aware that we are the blind man touching the elephant, and the only way to get a better view is through other people's experiences. Is hearing what they're saying, because that's giving us insight to a side of an elephant that we're just not on that side to touch. And so I love it. Today's might be a little shorter because we're only going over 2 pages. The reason that is because the first part is stronger together, and it's about community and engagement, and then the next part after that is about voting. And I felt like, ooh, that probably needs to be one all by itself. Also, I am preparing to fly out today to head to Charlottesville, Virginia. And so I have quite a bit of stuff that I need to do at work to make sure that my teams are okay while I'm incommunicado, while I'm in the plane or on the plane, and also just to make sure that I have everything packed up for the trip and that my family is good, that they're all good. So my time is precious today. So without further ado, if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that alert notification bell, consider supporting the content, the community, or joining the community in any way that makes sense for you. And of course, check out our merch because it's pretty dope. And it's right here on YouTube. You can find that link. And also, we have books for sale. You can take a look back there. They're behind me. All right. So let's jump into this conversation. This section is called Stronger Together and community engagement. And there's already a quote. So I want to open up one of the quotes. And that's what I call them quotes. And I don't know if that's the best way to call them. I mean, that it's accurate, but I don't know if it colors it right. But they have these sprinkled throughout the entire report, just to kind of add a little bit of context and add that personal touch. Like this is what individuals are saying. And so this one is a female from Texas. And she said, I found Atheist on YouTube and in my local meetup groups. My husband and I have similar beliefs: secular, humanist, atheist, agnostic, freethinker, skeptic. There are several groups in our area, and we participate in activities and social events several times a year. And that is a positive one. I think that's probably one of the first positive ones we've seen. And to be true, all of them are not traumatic and negative. Some of them are just like, hey, it doesn't bother me because I'm going to be me anyway. But this is the first one that we see a hint of true positivity here, true Scotsman, of real or tangible positivity here, where this person is saying, no, I found a tribe that works for me. And this is one of the reasons why I push community so hard on our channel. We're starting to get more and more volunteers helping us out with the stuff that we're doing and building community. And one of the things that I'm starting to hear more is when people say our tribe, and I'm like, oh, I love it. I mean, I'm not a big fan of tribalism, but yeah, I don't mind the word. But yeah, it's when people say our, this is our community, this is our tribe. I feel so good about that because then that means, okay, yeah, the work is starting to pay off where people don't feel like, oh, I'm joining his community. It's like, no, we're all a part of this community together. It's ours. We're building it together. So that's beautiful to me. All right, so let me read this. Due to the prominence of religion, Black non-religious people can feel especially isolated or misunderstood within Black communities. Our data shows how this isolation affects Black participants who experienced higher levels of stigma and loneliness than other participants. Engagement with non-religious communities is a significant protective factor for all non-religious people, but these statistics demonstrate that it is even more important for Black non-religious people. I want to read that again because I think when sometimes when I'm driving the point home of community, I know there's a great bit of you who do get it, but there's still a few others, who are not quite there yet, and for a myriad of reasons, and I understand. But I just want to read this again so we drive it home. Engagement with non-religious communities is a significant protective factor for all people. You know, that's the point. Many of us feel, that we're out here, that we're unprotected, that we're isolated, and I'm going to be screaming, probably to the day that I die. Community is an answer for that. You know what I'm saying? Especially intentional community. And you see here that it's even more important for Black non-religious people, in the sense that if you want to see more Black non-religious people, then community is going to be important for us. And that's just not with Black people. That's with anything. If you want to see more of anything, you're going to have to build community that promotes it, that supports it, you know, that makes it visible, that makes it an option. That's how you normalize things. In comparison to other participants, Black participants were significantly more likely to be members of local secular organizations, more than one quarter, and which was 26.9%. And a major reason for that is some of the things that we've kind of already hit in this survey in some of these previous installments, and that is the overwhelming reality of isolation, of ostracization. I don't feel right. Ostracized. All right. They're going to be ostracized. I don't know the Asian version of that word. But because of that disenfranchisement by their own families and communities, it becomes necessary. Again, this protective aspect, it becomes necessary for many of us to find community. And for me, I've been trying to find it for 10 years. And now I'm like, okay, I just got to start building community. And that's what it is. And I do remind people of that. People who say, "Oh man, I live in an area where there is no community for atheists or free thinkers or just skeptics, non-believers, any category, or believers who are willing to separate from superstition to do community with other folk." Like, if you're in that situation, you're saying like, "Hey, there's no community here." That means somebody needs to build it. You know, like sometimes we make things mysterious, by making things other people's responsibility. And in that way, forgive me for going into like coaching mode here a little bit, but in that way, we rob ourselves of opportunity. So it's like sometimes many of us are sitting in a context or in a situation where we're like, I don't have what I need. I don't have the community I need. Man, if this community existed here, I'd really be a part of that and that would help me out. And so I'm thinking, like, how do you know what you need, but then aren't willing to be a part of creating what you need? Well, I have so much stuff to do. Everybody does. You know what I'm saying? Now, I know that's weird, but again, most of y'all don't know the coaching version of me, but the coaching version of me is very averse to excuses. Um, and the reason it is because the longer most of us sit on the sidelines and say that's somebody else to do it, and then when they do it, I'll benefit from it, the longer that it's just not going to happen. We need more people who are like, nope, I'll take it up. I'll take up that mantle, and start, corralling people together and talking to people about different things that we can do, whether we're just meeting at a coffee shop or a local library or a local park, or at somebody's house so that we can have alcohol. I don't know. But no, it's important. It's important. Oh, I pulled a lot from that little section. This means that Black participants were nearly one third more likely to seek out and join a local group than other participants. That's almost like, what was that, Field of Dreams? If you build it, we will come, type of thing. But they were slightly less likely to be members of national secular organizations. Now that's very interesting. But no, it's not. It's not. Okay, here it is. Yep. It's not. I get it. The black participants were more likely to join local groups, less likely to join national groups. And I'm not against national groups at all. I feel like they do phenomenal work and we need more. You know, that's one of the reasons why we call Bridge City Global, because we do need groups with larger scopes, And so Bridge City has a goal. Well, Bridge City and the Bridge has a goal for local community and global community, you know. But the reason why I think, and obviously we're not a monolith. We're not a hive mind. I can't speak for all Black folk, but I think one of the reasons Black people are more apt to seek out local organizations than national organizations, because the benefits of community seem to feel more tangible. And I do want to say that's an issue of perception, not necessarily an issue of reality. You know, things are changing at such a fast rate technologically. And sometimes we run the risk of doing the same things that conservatives do. And that is saying that there's only one way to do things. And the one way to do things is the way that we used to do things. So a misnomer that I hear quite frequently is that everybody's less social because they're in their phones. And I'm just like, when I hear that, I don't think we have a really good understanding of what social is. Because we say, oh, everybody's not talking to each other. And it's because they're not forced to anymore. You know? And I think, and that's a mixed bag, but to say everybody is in their phones so they're less social, like that's not accurate. You don't have enough data for that. You'd actually have to know what they're doing in their phones. And if what they're doing in their phones is talking to other people or engaging with other people, then they're still just as social as they were before. The problem is, or the difference is, they're no longer limited to only talk to the people who are close to them, you know. And so, and I say that to say that online community still is tangible community, and that's ultimately what national groups do, is they create online spaces, typically through things like Meetup, which we just saw one of these people were doing, but they can create online spaces for people, and that is tangible, and there are some people who prefer that, who lean into that, and there's nothing wrong with that. In our series How to Human, that's one thing that we were really trying to encourage people to really think through And that was this idea that nobody has to human like you. And we have to be really careful about, because we do things like, everybody just needs that human touch. And it's just like, well, you don't know what human touch means for different people. And I'm one of those people who's incredibly averse to thinking that there is a typical standard for how to be a human. Um, I know that's been popular propaganda, for years, like even in the medical health field, and for good reason. But it's just not always. It's just not all. I won't say it's inaccurate. It's incomplete many times. It doesn't take into consideration those people who have high levels of anxiety and really can't always handle being around groups, and so online community works wonders for them. Because also it's easier to tap out when you want to tap out. You don't have to worry about that awkward feeling of walking out the room and everybody watching you go, wondering why you're leaving. You can literally just click leave group and be up out of there. It's safety for your peace of mind. But for many black folk, and again, we're not a hive mind, but for many black folk, it's the immediate need is that physical location, that physical group. Um, Almost to to feel sure that you're not in another illusion or even in another delusion, to make sure that you're not out here by yourself. Because for many of us, community isn't, and again, it's not a hive mind, but for many of us, community isn't just a place to isn't just a place to talk about stuff. It's a place to be, a place to live, a place to breathe, you know, and that's what most of us lose when we deconvert and deconstruct. And so, unfortunately, that's not a need that national community is yet set up to fulfill. In our online community, rather, is yet to fill. So, I know a popular question I get is, when you deconverted, did you go to the secular project or the clergy project? And I always tell people I knew about them, but no, I didn't. And there was a few reasons. Number one, I didn't see enough black faces on the site. Not to say, oh, I thought they were racist or something. I just didn't know if there would be enough pastors in their organization who would identify with my background, culturally and theologically. Um, and so, that's for me at the time. I didn't see how it could be helpful, and I know it's been helpful for a lot of people. And I can be very honest and say much of that was my own fear and bias, because there was also the fear that, ooh, what if my name comes up on a list, and what if I've changed my mind by then? What if I've decided, no, I think I'm gonna be a believer again, and now my name is on this list of atheists? There were all these types of fears and all of these types of um, needs that were immediate, that unfortunately at that time I didn't feel like I was in a place where it could help. Now, what I do realize is that that's, like I said, my judgment on that was clouded by a lot of things. But the reason I'm sharing that is because likely there are other pastors who've seen the clergy project as well and have thought about it, and said, and probably said, man, I wish there was a local one of those here so that I can go check it out. You know, I don't know, and that's I think that's another thing. I think joining national organizations feels so permanent, you know, and you don't get to really try before you buy in. But with local community, that's kind of the comfort people get, that I can come check this out. And if I never want to come back again, I haven't spilled out any paperwork. Nobody has my name. I'm not going to be getting a bunch of emails and stuff. But in order to sign up for, national or online organization, I got to give you my email, which means you're going to email me, And believe it or not, these are things that people think about. Okay, dang, I pulled a lot more out of that than I expected. Maybe I'm just talkative this morning. I can't be too talkative because I got to get ready for this flight and I got to get these meetings done. All right. Black participants living in very religious communities were significantly more likely to be members of national organizations. Very religious communities were significantly more likely to be members of national organizations or local groups compared to those living in less religious communities, which is an interesting correlation, not to be confused with causation. But the correlation here is that the groups who the ones who tend to live in less religious communities tend to be less likely, that's the word used, to gravitate towards local or national community. And those who are from highly religious communities tend to be more likely to gravitate to national or local communities, which I think just kind of highlights what I'm saying. The reason why the ones who are from highly religious communities are more likely to find local or national community is because they are used to community, and that's what they're losing when they leave. While those who are from less religious communities, they're less likely to have a need for the other, or to perceive a need for community outside, because it hasn't, for the most part, been a part of their conversion experience or deconversion. Previous research has found that engagement with secular communities can help alleviate loneliness and depression, and that, to me, that's just a no-brainer. Among Black participants, membership in both local and national secular organizations had a significant protective effort against adverse mental health. Black participants who were members of national secular organizations were 1/3 less likely to be at risk for depression. Members of local groups were also 1/3 less likely than non-members, sorry, to be at risk for depression. Black participants who were members of national or local secular organizations were also, on average, slightly less lonely than Black participants who were not members of a national or local organization. And so we do have two more quotes here, and I want to read them. As an African American woman, I hate how so many local chapters of our organizations, namely the Urban League, NAACP, just assume that because we are Black, that we must be religious. Not only do many of the events take place at churches, but going to actual Sunday service was actually promoted as a membership engagement activity. On the one hand, I get it, but I wish there were more space for those of us who identify as non-religious. I get why you say you get it, but I do not get it. That's like going to an event that's supposed to be about justice, that's supposed to be about equity, and they say, "Hey, look, a part of membership, please make sure you go watch Iron Man 3." And it's just like, oh, okay. I mean, I might, because I like, Marvel movies, but damn, how is this relative? How is this related? How is this relevant? That's a better word. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I think I've shared some of my thoughts on the NAACP. Not a fan, haven't been a fan for a very long time. I was a part of the NAACP as a teenager in high school. Um, and it just looked like church, you know, which is very interesting to me. Because when it comes to the Black community, the NAACP has basically done what this person just said. But there are other communities that NAACP represents, and they don't tend to do it that way. And so yeah. Let's read the next one. I also think there's a lot of animosity in the Black community toward anyone who is vocally non-religious. Me. I don't attack anyone personally, but I do point out viewpoints I find immoral, even when they're couched in religion. I find that people just respond with anger and hostility when they have when they have the morality of their beliefs challenged, and they do, and they do. It's like trying to take somebody's really nasty, dirty security blanket. It's just like, hey man, this blanket is actually making you sick because it is so filthy with immorality. Like, this blanket is making you sick, and I'm trying to get it away from you, not just for your health and wellness, but for everybody else's health and wellness that's around you. Because this shit is contagious, Okay, survey participants were asked if they had participated in any events or services frequently offered by local secular groups within the last year, and if not, whether they were interested in such events or services. More than one quarter of Black participants have attended an in-person social event for non-religious people in their area. Fewer Black participants attend debates or lectures by secular leaders or issue experts. Um, or issue experts, participated in local volunteer opportunities for non-religious people, or were involved in advocacy on secular issues. Yes. Okay. And I kind of want to highlight that. So more than one quarter of Black participants attend events for non-religious people in their area, but fewer participants attend debates or lectures by secular leaders or issue experts. Few participate in local volunteer opportunities for non-religious people, and few were involved in advocacy on secular issues. And I'm gonna answer this question. For those of you like, I wonder why. It's the utility of it. It's. I think like community is not just about being visible. It has to have a purpose. And a lot of what's happening. All right, I'm gonna get on my soapbox a little bit here. A lot of what's happening in the secular community is you're still traditionalist, many of you. And what I mean when I say about traditionalists is traditionalists don't actually value people when they're building experience. They just value the values. And so that becomes the point. Just the values becomes the point, where we're going to get together and we're just going to talk about the values. We're just going to debate the values. And so everything becomes about the values. And there's never any actual paying attention to the people. And so what you end up just building is somewhat of just personality cults, because then we just gravitate towards the people who talk about the values that we identify with, instead of the people who are being intentional about making impact. And when it comes to impact, it's at least positive impact. You're going to need some intentionality there. And so, like, because even me, like, I'm not a fan of debates. Um, I do like stuff like the call-in shows. I'll watch them. I'll participate. But I also know that most people who look like me, we're not getting the same thing from that as other people, and it's actually quite complex as to the reason why. In many cases, it's the lack of an economic foundation. Um, like a lot of white churches that I went to preached about sinners and preached about the glory of heaven and preached about the dangers of hell. Every hell house I've been to was sponsored and promoted by a white church. That's not what Black churches did. Black churches' messages were about favor and grace and making it through the storm, making it another day. Yeah, you know, um, because our messages, even though still replete with superstition all the way through, saturated, we're very much people centric, you know. And so a major part of our culture has become that, and that's not just Black folk. The businesses that do exceptionally well do so because they pay attention to the people. I'm not saying they love the people and they're just loving and all that, but I am saying that they pay attention to the people, Um, and debates and lectures are more about the point than the people, you know. And my thing is, you want to do a better job of paying attention to the people before you make the points. And if you do a better job of paying attention to the people, you might have to make less points. You might, I'm just saying. But yeah, I did think that was interesting. I actually didn't expect to. I didn't expect that when I first read through this survey. But once I kind of looked at it, I was like, okay, no, I do kind of see how that makes sense. Um, the conferences we attend are very different. But the majority of Black participants who hadn't yet participated in various activities expressed interest in participating in each of these in each of the events or services, so that there's an interest there. You know, it's it's just not strong enough to lead over. And again, it's because the community aspect has to be it really has to be first. And then honestly, that'll make the things like the debates and the lectures even more productive, because then you have entire community groups who are promoting them and who are getting their groups excited, about being a part of it. Um, and that just leads to the increases the visibility factor. Okay, so Black participants who were members of local secular groups were significantly more likely than those who did not belong to a local group to have participated in all activities assessed. Overall, Black participants were more likely to have participated in social opportunities and volunteer opportunities compared to other survey participants. This data helps demonstrate the importance of local secular groups offering a variety of secular activities, including those intended for people with children, in order to better engage Black non-religious people. And I'm gonna be honest with you there. That's not just Black non-religious people. This is right. This is why churches look like they're beating the secular community, especially the seeker-friendly urban ones. The ones that are all old folks, they're not beating anybody. You know what I'm saying? We might be running neck and neck, but most of them are in decline for this very reason. Those seeker-friendly urban churches, they start paying attention that, man, these people got kids, and we need to create experiences that are just as valuable for their kids that the adults find valuable. And then they have teenagers. And then we have older people who feel like they're aging out and being neglected. So we can create things for them, like Pinochle Club, a bridge or something, and that's a little, what is it, ageist, because maybe they want to play tennis. I don't know. But then you start, and that's what you do. You start paying attention to the needs of your people. Now, there were other churches who said, well, no, well, we're not really here to do that. We're here to preach Jesus. And so we're not going to do the children's wing. You know what I'm saying? Well, we're just here to do Jesus. We're not going to create a recreation center here. Well, we're just here to do Jesus. We're not going to upgrade the music so that people who like modern day music can participate. We're just going to do Jesus. And in many ways, the secular community falls into that same trap where, we're just going to talk about the point. We're just going to talk about the values. So we don't think about people, you know, and that's what some pastors will have the advantage in, is that they're going to think about people. They're going to think about, why is it hard for people to come here? And how can I make it easier? What do people have to go through to get here? And how can we make it easier? Like, we can pick at churches all day long about being like big love bombers and stuff like that. But what's wrong with showing a little love? Why can't we in the secular community outdo people who need to believe in an imaginary friend? Why can't we outdo them in our expressions of love? Like, no, I mean, that's ridiculous to me. I'm not calling anybody out um, personally, because I don't have anybody in mind. But I am saying that as a community, if you want to see more Black non-believers, and if you want to see more Hispanic non-believers, and if you want to see more white non-believers, you're gonna have to get a little loving, man. Not loving in the sense that, oh, I just love about you, and I'm gonna point it out. I just love you. There's this disingenuousness where everybody in the community seems to be so concerned with all of the issues, but very few people are actually doing anything about the issues. Yeah. See, those are the type of talks I like to have, because, hey, we're either here to move this thing forward, or we're here to talk about it and pretend like we're doing it. And if you remember anything about my story, that's why I stopped being a pastor, because I'm not here to pretend to help. I want to actually help. And the way we do that is by making as many people as possible feel uncomfortable sitting on the sidelines, critiquing and complaining without the benefit of support and construction. You know, because that's really the whole point of sharing this stuff, is to remind people that, like, yay, There's work to do. Let's do it. People say, well, Darante, you put out so much content. Why? Because there's work to do. There's work to do. I've likely put out more content in this year than I preached in the past 5 years of my life before deconverting. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm making up for lost time. You know, I know there's quite a few people who deconstruct and they just want to enjoy the world, just enjoy the view, and that's beautiful. You know, I love it. That's not me. That's not me. I want to get to work. I want to get to work. I don't want to enjoy the world. I want to change it so it becomes enjoyable. I think that's a great place to end that. Yeah. All right. So, and I did make it through my two pages, and this one was we still got some decent time in here. Um, I do want to say, man, like if you haven't already, check out the organization Black Nonbelievers, and I will all of their information is in the description. They're doing the work. They're building local community, and I am partnering with them in every way that I can to help. And I would love for you to do the same, to consider volunteering, to consider financially supporting them, maybe even considering starting a local chapter where you are. Um, you know, if we want to see more Black nonbelievers, let's get informed. And again, it's not even just about seeing the reason we want to see more Black nonbelievers is because we want to see more nonbelievers, you know, period. Period. But the way we do it is we get intentional. We here are your options. Your options are to either get intentional about building community or be intentional about supporting community. You can do one or you can do both. I choose to do both. Um, and I know everybody's bandwidth isn't the same, and mine is honestly at its wits end for that one. But yeah, and Black Nonbelievers is an excellent, incredible organization that you can support. So, all right, I think I've said enough. I've got to jump into work then so I can get my stuff ready, and then I will be out for the whole week, and then I'll be back Monday. All right, so y'all have a wonderful day. Please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that alert notification bell. Consider joining this community or supporting this community in whatever way that makes sense for you. And check out the merch and the books because you know what? It's dope. You can find our books on Amazon or anywhere books are sold. And you can find our merch on Teespring and also on our YouTube. All right, so I think I've said everything. Love y'all. Hope you have a wonderful day. Until next time, keep rising, stay progressive, and stay beautiful if you can. I'll holla.